Hello, and welcome to Health Fitness Redefined. I'm your host, Anthony Amen. Join me today as we take a dive into the world of health and fitness, where we're going to overcome diversity, depict fact versus fiction, and see health and fitness in a whole new light. Welcome, guys. We have finally reached December. That means holiday season right upon us. So I am super excited to get this episode in because we're going to be talking to an awesome guest who's going to tell us how we shouldn't be healthy. So basically, he's telling me that the first word in my podcast of Health and Fitness Redefined is no longer viable because we just shouldn't be healthy whatsoever. So without further ado, let's welcome to the show, Matthew LaBosco. Matthew, pleasure to have you on today.
Oh, it's great to be here, man. And that's one of the best intros I've ever gotten, brother. Thank you.
I knew, just talking to you 3 minutes pre-show, I knew you'd like it. So we didn't
rehearse
at all, guys.
It was perfect.
So just tell us a little bit about how kind of you got started and what kind of got you into this industry.
Yeah, so I know I stopped trying to be healthy, right? That's what I told you my big platform is, and obviously tongue-in-cheek, and we'll talk about what I mean by that. But, my journey really started with my own struggles, like many of our journeys, right? We all have a story, and it started with me. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school, and had 5 orthopedic surgeries before I was 22, knees, ankles, elbows, had a hernia. I mean, they want to do a full reconstruction on my left ankle. They wanted to rewire my nerve in my elbow. It was just so much fun. And I grew up in the medical model. My dad was a doctor. My mom was a nurse practitioner. So I had direct access to everything that model had to offer me. And don't get me wrong, there's plenty of perks to be plugged into that model. I mean, plenty. But I just realized very quickly that what I was trying to accomplish, this model wasn't able to get me there. And I had a moment with my orthopedic surgeon. It was in my early 20s, actually, after not like having to stop playing baseball by high school. Then I couldn't play soccer when I was a junior, and I was an all-state soccer player. Couldn't play because of my knee. So all I had was basketball left. And my elbow was shot, and I was also having ankle injuries, and I had to quit. I had to stop my basketball career a month short of my senior year season, 40 points shy of scoring 1,000 points. So that was pretty brutal for me because I was in reach, and that's kind of a cool thing. I mean, I'm not going to the NBA, but yeah, that's kind of cool. It would have been fun to do that. And so I kind of was like, damn it, man, like why am I keep breaking? What is wrong with me? And so I went all in on health, fitness. I took every strength conditioning, Olympic weight lifting, National Academy Sports Medicine, National Strength and every certification, every guru. All of the guys. Paula Quinn, unfortunately, God rest in peace. Like these unbelievable strength coaches and Olympic coaches, I was like a fixture at their seminars. And I'm like, all right, man, I got the information to get me strong. And I got strong, Anthony. Like I'm from Jersey originally, just FYI. So I was a Jersey meathead. Like there's no question about it. I was a little musclehead, 250. I'm only 5'11", so 215, like 8% body fat. And I remember being in the club in New York City. I worked at a gym in the Upper East Side. And my buddy and I were going for a PR on the military press. Military press is that you sit on the bench and press that bar over your head. And it was like one of those moments where I was going for, a pretty big milestone for me, which was 315 on a military press. There's a lot of weight to press over your head at the time. And I unracked that bad boy, pushed it over my head. My buddy helped me get it, spotted me up, racked it. And I literally said to myself, I've arrived. Like I am the man. Like I just did that, right? I took 3 steps away from the bench. My whole right arm I couldn't move it. It was like it was hanging. Okay. It was horrible pain. Okay. And I remember like literally thinking to myself, my elbow is officially exploded. Like it's done. Right. And I had my orthopedic surgeon's number on speed dial at that point. So, called him up. I'm like, I need surgery like tomorrow. Right. You got like I destroyed my elbow. And so I got in to see him later that week, did the evaluation, did the x-rays, did all the tests. And he came into that little room, right? That you sit there and waiting for them to come save you, right? And waiting for, tell me what's wrong with me and tell me how you're going to fix me, And what he said to me changed my life, Anthony, and set me on this trajectory to where I am today. He came into the room and he's like, Matt, x-rays look good. I don't see anything wrong with your elbow. Like, what are you talking about? Right? Like, what? How could you possibly say that? And it just hit me. For whatever reason, in that moment, it hit me. After being through it in the intensity that I'd been in, I thought to myself, wow, they really don't have the answers that I'm looking for. Like this, they don't have all the answers, right? And so that set me.
I don't mean to cut you off, Matt, but that's just the parallels of our lives of just kind of like blow me away.
There's a lot of people that have been through stuff like this, Anthony, man, you know, right? Like you and I are probably very close to the same age, and you know.
All right, you're the second person to tell me that in 2 days. So how old do you think I am? And this is not related to the episode. I'm just curious.
I don't know. I'm 40 in my early 40s.
See, that's what I'm saying. Everyone thinks I'm like 40.
How old are you?
Take it. 32.
Okay, whatever. So 40 is the new 30. So that's what I meant.
Fair enough. But back to like that point is my journey. The last person I saw was an orthopedic surgeon who walked into that office same day. I'm like, last resort, help me. I'm screwed up. And he goes, I'm a physician, not a magician. I can't help you.
There's so many people that hear that, man. Yeah. And so now what do you do, right? Like, what do you do? Right? And so you start going into the alternative routes, and you go to the shaman in the cave, like, do anything, try to help me, please, you know? And that's really why I was looking for the answer myself. So a model for people to actually, here's what you do, and understand that, like, example, like just this, we'll just stay with fitness for now, because that's what we're talking about. There's everything that the fitness and physical rehabilitation, chiropractic, that whole model that comes up with solutions to your shoulder pain, elbow pain, knee pain, is all based on cadaver anatomy research. Okay. And so what the heck does that mean? Cadaver anatomy is a corpse, right? It's the study of a corpse, a dead person, right? And we study the muscles. We look at origin and insertion of one muscle, like the bicep, and we say, okay, if we shorten that muscle, oh, look at that muscle flexes the elbow, hamstring flexes the knee, and we all write it in our little charts. And then we go out into the world and we say, oh, if you have, hamstring problems, it's because you need to stretch it or strengthen it. And then it gets more sophisticated. It's like, no, it's actually that your quad is weak and your hamstrings are too loose. So we need to do these leg extension exercises to strengthen your quad. And so we've based this entire model of rehabilitation on a dead person, because the hamstrings, like, to say the hamstring's job is to flex the knee is like saying a mom's job is to change diapers. If you want to get smacked, tell a mom that her job is to just change diapers. It's an insult. Well, the hamstring's no different, man, right? Like, it is beyond comprehension how complex this muscle is, as an example. And in some cases, it actually extends the knee. So what does the hamstring do? Well, if you're a catcher, and you're squatting down, catching, popping up, and throwing to second base, your hamstring's doing something very specific. If you're a dancer doing spins and twists, your hamstring's doing something completely different. If you're a mom picking up your kid off the floor, your hamstring's doing something even more different. So it's understanding that the foundation of everything that we've created to rehabilitate people is completely flawed. Which just brings you to the point where you were just speaking to, Anthony, is like, hey, I've done the things you told me to do. I stretch, I'm flexible, I do yoga, so I'm working on my flexibility, which makes no sense because flexibility is not relative to a task. Anyway, we don't necessarily have to go down that rabbit hole. But it's like, so now I'm here, doc, what do I do? Well, I don't know, try this medication. I can give you an injection. Have you tried physical therapy? Have you done enough bridges and clams to help with your back pain? Which, again, has no correlation to actually why the back has pain. Well, no, I guess we can go in and see what's going on in there, which is what the doctor eventually said to me. Hey, I'll go in there and see what I find. I'm like, I think I got to find another way.
Exploratory surgery, which never turns
Exactly.
out to be good.
Yeah. Just put those two words together, right? It's just like, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's just kind of the way you were talking about it. It's true for a lot of different people, how that journey of, I don't want to take the option they gave me. Like, I'm not getting neck surgery at 20 years old. That's not happening. Or I'm not getting exploratory surgery and having you dig into my elbow to figure out what's wrong. So what's my other options? And then when you realize there are no options, that's when you start doing your own research and figuring out your own task. And then once you figure that out, that's when you start helping other people do those same different methods. And that's when you really start seeing different results, because it's different types of rehab. So how did you take that next step? What was from that point where you're like, hey, you're not digging into me? What was the next thing you did to kind of help propel yourself?
Yeah. So two things. One, I started to challenge every accepted truth inside of the health and fitness model, starting with fitness. And I went on, my wife and I have moved 18 times since we've been together. And that's because I was willing to go anywhere, and she was as well, to learn from the people that had the answers to these questions. And there's not a lot of them, right? And so I became what I call a mentor junkie. And so I just found practitioners that were operating outside of the model, that not only were operating outside of the model, but had a very solid foundation for why they were doing what they were doing. Okay. So many people become biased to their modality, right? It's like, well, why are you doing that? Well, because it helps people. I'm like, I don't know what that means. It helps people. You could put your arm around someone and say, I got you, and their back can feel better. So I guess that works. But so I want more than it works. I want you to tell me exactly what your objective is and what you're trying to accomplish with this technique, and how do you measure if it worked? And so I was a big pain in the you-know-what to a lot of these people. But when I found the guys and the gals that were like, yeah, man, let me break down exactly why I'm doing this, and had principles they were operating from, that's what I was seeking. And I had my first mentor. I traveled across the country to California to study with him. And this gentleman taught me how to think. He taught me how to break down things into principles and not get lost in the wicked intricacies of the human body. I mean, you have people that study the shoulder their entire life. That's how complicated it is. But if we get too close to stuff, we can't see the whole thing, right? So, he gave me this analogy of a Black Hawk helicopter. It's like they float above. You want to see the whole thing, go in when you have to, but get out quick, because if you stay down there too long, you're not getting back up, right? Like a Black Hawk. So I studied with people way smarter than me, Anthony, and just absorbed as much as I could, and extracted the principles from people that were doing rehab and physical rehabilitation. And then I took a deep dive in nutrition. I challenged the same, like, why are salads healthy? Why on every health magazine is there a salad? Like, please tell me what salads do for me, and why are we promoting this? Why are we promoting low calorie diet? Why are we telling people to eat all this fat? Like, what is going on here? Why have I believe we have overcomplicated everything when it comes to nutrition. But again, so I went into that space. And then, like I said, I said to you earlier in the pre-interview, I was involved with a personal development company for the last pretty much 10 years, and did a deep dive into that space. And why are we recommending the things we're recommending to people? Like, why are we telling people to, like to avoid stress, as an example? Why are we telling people to, feel your emotion, take a deep breath, and let the emotion go? Like, why are we doing that? Because what I have found are those things are not really going to produce the outcomes that people are looking for. And the way we relate to emotions make no sense based on the biological, why emotions are here to begin with. So anyway, I just got down to the basics, because I realized we were talking about these intricately complex things, but the way we got there was flawed to begin with. Does that make sense, Anthony? It's like, you know what I'm saying? So I just found people that at least I could explore these conversations with, and then I've tried them on myself first. So I never do anything to a client or try anything that I haven't done to myself, My wife has been there by my side, navigating some major systemic and hormonal and all kinds of stuff in her space. So together, we just kind of went on this journey of really asking why, and then researching and finding a lot of people that weren't helpful, but also found those few diamonds in the rough, man, that just changed our whole paradigm. And that all came into what I call the vitality paradigm. And that's basically the culmination of the last 20, 25 years of our in-depth study and experience with people.
It's interesting. One of the things you mentioned just a little while back was blanking on the analogy, but it's that modality bias you were talking about, where if you go into a chiropractor, he's going to use his chiropractic tools to fix you. If you go to a nutritionist, she's going to use the nutritionist tools to fix you. Where that might not necessarily be the case. They only can pick from a select few tools, but I mean any of those. But that's all they know. So it's stuck inside of that thing. And it's not to say that it's horrible. I mean, even trainers.
It's a place for everything, right? There's a place for everything. Yeah, for sure.
We have moments where we're inside our tools of fitness. So what can we do inside this realm to help you accomplish this?
Did you ever hear the quote by Warren Buffett?
No.
Never ask a barber if you need a haircut.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. I mean, right. That's why, right? Because like you said, if I sell orthotics, then your problem is solved by orthotics, right? If you have a back problem, then it's your spine out of alignment. If I'm a chiropractor, if I do acupuncture, then no matter what your problem is, acupuncture is going to help you. And if I sell like filtration systems, water systems, oh my God, let me show you all the research on how this increases your metabolic rate. And and it's not that those things aren't true. Okay. And it's not that people are lying. And this is how I created kind of my evaluation process is I call it, I need to find the big rock. And so when someone comes to me with a shoulder problem, as an example, I don't assume it's mechanical, right? I look at those three areas. I look at mechanics. I look at what's happening with them systemically. Like you could have shoulder pain because you're not getting enough sleep, right? I mean, it's a complex system, right? And then the third is, mental, emotional stress. Like those are the three variables that are always contributing to everybody's condition, right? And so people will ask me all the time, they'll show, Matt, well, does it have to do with the shoes I'm wearing? Well, how about the position I'm sleeping? Well, do you think it has to do with the EMG in the air, and maybe that's what it is, or the 5G networks, maybe that's what's causing it? And I'm like, yes, all of it is contributing. Okay, but here's the more important question. I want to find the thing that has the most significant contribution to your condition. So if let's find the thing that's contributing at 60%, because maybe the water you're drinking is contributing, but maybe it's only a 3% contributor to your condition. So do we want to spend all this time, money, and resources into putting a filtration system in your house if it's going to uptick your condition by 3%? I don't think so, right? I mean, I've had people come in with wicked shoulder problems, and I've said to them, I'll tell you a true story if you'd like, Anthony, about this.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, this lady came in with shoulder problems, and she came in to see me for her shoulder. She had been everywhere. Nobody can help her. I'm usually the guy you see after you've been everywhere else. And to your point, right? People are just desperate. Yeah, I'll try the guy. I don't even know what he does, but I'll go see him. And I did my movement evaluation on her, and there was really no mechanical thing I could find that would, correlate to her pain. I'm like, man, this doesn't seem mechanical. And so then I looked at her chart that she sent in, and she had like aches and pains marks all over her body, different spots. And I'm like, talk to me about these other aches and pains in your knees and this. And she's like, yeah, that they've been there a long time, or they've been there a while. And I said, well, what position, what motion bothers it? I'm always trying to connect a position and a motion to confirm that it's biomechanical. And there was no like consistent position or motion that irritated any part of her body, right? It was non-specific. And so I then was like, all right, this is not mechanical. So then I started to look at what is she eating? Is she sleeping? Blah, blah, blah. And I would say, we can all eat a more organic blueberry, but it was pretty good, right? It was pretty good. And so then I said, hey, I did notice one thing. all of her symptoms came on about around the same time. It was about 1.5 years ago, right? And I go, God, did anything happen in the last 2 years that was significant in your life? And she's like, I kid you not. She goes, well, not really. I mean, we did find my mom dead in the swimming pool. And I said, excuse me? Like, I thought I misheard her, and I didn't. And I said, okay, well, that's pretty intense and traumatic to go through something like that. And she goes, do you think that might have had something to do with how my system is feeling today? And I said, I do. I really do. And I said, and she's like, I'm like, did you talk to anybody about it? Like, and she's like, no, I there really was no emotion. I accepted it and moved on. Right. And it's like, yeah, right. Like, clearly that's not what happened, And so, that's a whole other conversation about like dismissal of emotion and so on and so forth. And this idea of acceptance that's in the space of personal development. If it's used as a way to mute emotion, this is what can happen, manifest over time. But that's a perfect example. So I said to her, I said, listen, I can do some work on your shoulder if you want to, if you feel like it makes the symptom better, but this is not going to solve the problem. Like, you need to talk to somebody about this. And I didn't have the skill set at that time to have that kind of conversation with her. So, but that's an example. So if I'm clear that one of the variables, like doing the body work on somebody and helping them mechanics is not their big rock, I'll say, listen, if you want to pay me a couple $100 an hour to work on something that I think is 10% of your problem, that's fine. But just understand there's going to be a limitation to what we can accomplish here.
Very interesting. Did you ever follow up with her about after?
I worked on her a little bit and helped her connect with people that I feel like would be helpful. And as she talked about it, and it takes courage to do that, man. I'm like, that's not for everybody. That's a pretty intense thing, right? And she started to communicate with a therapist, and it was a good therapist that really, taught her how to integrate her emotions and move on. I would say I would even say within the next 3 months of just acknowledging and having conversations with people about this, her symptoms started to diminish.
It's crazy, kind of like what we hold on to can manifest in our body. It just literally, I've seen time and time again cases of this, and it's just letting things go just releases something else, and it blows your mind.
But this idea that's out there of letting things go. But go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, it's all right. I want to get back to the specific things about why we shouldn't be healthy, but we're going to take a quick break from a word from our sponsor, guys. So bear with us, and we'll be right back. For us, we know what it's like to feel unhealthy, depressed, and downright defeated. We want to show others there is a right way, and through fitness, you can do anything you set your mind to. Fitness can give you that motivation, confidence, energy you need to bridge that mental gap and prevent you from missing important life events. We understand it's about feeling better, living longer, and being good examples for our kids. We understand this because we live it. And for us, that's the Redefined difference. Hey everybody, and welcome back. We have Matt on talking about why you shouldn't be healthy. So we're going to get a little more specific about what exactly you're talking. I know pre-show you were bringing up the difference between healthy and vitality. So why don't you just explain a little bit the difference between those two for our listeners?
Yeah, sure. So why do I say to people stop struggling to be healthy is because if you define health, it's defined as the state of being free from illness or injury. And so I think about that and I'm like, man, if that's the peak, if that's where we're trying to go, to just get to the place where I'm like, yes, I'm not sick. Like, please tell me there's more to life than just not being sick. So vitality to me is really what people are looking for. So how do we define vitality? Vitality is defined as exuberant physical strength or mental vigor the capacity for continuation of a meaningful and purposeful existence, the power to live and grow. Like, sign me up for that. So instead of, so if you want to simplify it, the healthy approach model is surviving. The vitality model is thriving. Now, in all fairness, there are definitely health coaches out there that are, out there looking to create vitality for people. So I'm not saying that anybody that's, look, what I mean? I say this tongue in cheek because I want to make a point that the whole health paradigm, we have to start to question at its foundational roots, and we need to create new roots that are more geared towards creating vitality. And so that's what I mean when I say stop struggling to be healthy and learn how to create vitality.
Is this because it's all based upon the cadaver model that you were talking about earlier?
Well, in the fitness world, that's definitely one thing. But there's also the bigger philosophical, I would say, reason, which is let's just call a spade here. There's not a lot of money in vitality. There's more money, there's more money in fixing people's problems. So, if you go back, historically, and we had a community of people or a village, the medicine woman or man in the village was doing their job and was benefiting when everybody was healthy. The medicine woman and model in our society benefits when people are sick. So sickness directly benefits the system. The more sick people are and the more dependent they are on the modalities to not die, the better the more the system flourishes. So, I mean, it is what it is. Now, you can go down all conspiracy routes. I'm not going there, but I'm saying we have to understand that it is what it is. Like, every time they drop what high cholesterol is defined as, in the 90s it was 240, in the 2000s it was 220, and now it's 200 is defined as high cholesterol. Every time that number drops, the statin market increases exponentially. Like I'm sorry, but I have a hard time believing that that's not influencing it at a level, not to mention who's doing all these studies. Who are they funded by? Roads lead back to some of these companies, right? And so
Coca-Cola sponsored the whole big sugar thing in the 70s about how sugar is not healthy.
Yeah, but exactly. Do you know what I'm saying?
Which helped the opposite.
Yeah, so it's just when you really get down to how did we get where we are and where did it come from? It's very fascinating to why, it's really left me like, oh my God, man, like we have to create a new way to do this. And so that's an example of kind of how I pulled things apart and saw some of these flaws. So yes, the fitness and the systemic was definitely just the idea that what should I eat to lose weight? Like, just think about that for a second. Hey, what do I eat to lose weight? Hey, what do I eat? What can I eat to lower my cholesterol? What can I eat to lower my A1C? Like, that's not the purpose of eating. Like, the purpose of eating is not to lose weight. It's not to lower your cholesterol. So then I go back to, okay, well, what is the purpose of eating? Oh, it's to optimize cellular energy production, recovery. Okay, great. So can we please stop talking about what we need to eat to lose weight? Please, I don't want to hear it anymore. I want you to tell me what optimizes cellular.
So you're really a fan of diets.
If you define diets as, macronutrient manipulation to lose weight, yeah, I'm not a fan of it. Does that mean that there's not a place for being aware of caloric intake and output? For sure. But I have found that when people just eat high, dense, nutritious food, the quantity issue goes away because their body's actually getting what it needs. Like, we're eating high amounts of foods that have no calories, no sugar, no salt, no fat. What the hell is it then? If none of that's in there, what are we eating, right? And how is that helping my body, right? Anyway, you could tell that, like, it just drives me nuts. And so, like, getting into it in that, and then I kind of mentioned same idea in the personal development space, that some of these fundamental things that that were out there, and hey, you can choose to be happy. That is a very destructive paradigm, in my opinion, and I've seen it, how destructive it can be. Because in certain situations, certain environments, your emotional communication system is going to be screaming to get the hell out of there. Okay. But if you have this idea, you taught, well, no, I can choose to be happy. I can accept what's happening and I can choose to be happy. Your biology is saying, no, this doesn't make any sense, and we should get the hell out of here. Right. That's an extreme example. Right.
Oh,
so
let's pour this into health and fitness and
okay.
Health,
no, I don't hate the word health.
But I know. But let's just take that exact analogy, right? And first thing that came to mind, just where we are in this realm, is if you take somebody who's obese and everyone's telling them, be happy. They're depressed, but everyone's telling them to be happy. Just be happy. Just be happy. You can be happy. Fat is beautiful. Their bodies are making them depressed because it's not functioning at an optimal level. Your body is slowly killing itself, and your brain's like, bells and whistles.
Exactly.
Hey, wake up. Let's go. We got to do something. You're not happy like this. We need to get back on track, get back to where we are optimized as an individual so we don't end up sicker. You're already sick once you're obese, not sicker.
Amen. Exactly, Anthony. Exactly. But what we do is we coddle people, and pet them. And I'm not saying there's not a place for that, but it's like, hey, you feel this way because something is way out of alignment with what's meaning and purposeful to you, what's meaningful to you. So your system is biologically wired to set off alarms when you're out of alignment with what's meaningful to you, right? And we have primal things in our brain. Our old brain has primal things that are meaningful to it. Safety and belonging are two of the big ones. And so if those two things are threatened, you're not going to feel great. And there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it, especially in our model, except numb it, cope with it, and like that's it. Some kind of coping or numbing strategy will be offered to.
Let me talk about a point, and I'm going to get eaten up alive after this episode airs. So,
sorry, dude.
Bear with me. This is a big problem we have with. I know I'm not 40, in my 30s, but my generation and the generation after me. This is the big issue we have, because when we were young, we were coddled in the sense that when we got depressed and we got down on ourselves, somebody else came to save the day. It was your parents. It was always our teachers or whatever it was. There was always somebody around us that said, come on, let's go. Let's work through this. And they would help us solve the situation. It's great for when you're an infant and you're a kid, but not when you're going into adulthood. There's no reason a parent should swoop in to a college student and be like, let me help you get better grades. Like, that shouldn't happen. So now what happens? You think you take this innocent thing that a mom's just trying to help a child or a dad's just trying to help a child by helping them with their grades. It's that little innocent act. But now it teaches me as an individual, if my parents did that to me, that, hey, it's okay to be happy. It will always, upset. It will just get picked up eventually, and I'll just be depressed for a while, and then maybe someone will swoop in and save the day. Now, when I get depressed on something like, let's say I'm obese, and now I'm 300 pounds, and I can't even go to the bathroom without breaking a sweat. Like, I'm that sick. And my brain's doing that same thing again. It's like, I'm depressed. Someone will come and save me. And then I'm waiting for somebody in my life to come tell me that I'm happy. That's not how this works. Instead, the flip side, which is something you should take from a child, is I get beat down, thrown to the ground, punched the living out of me. But you know what? I'm depressed in this moment, but this is my body and brain learns no one's coming. Pick yourself up and figure it out. And that's that drive that we're now missing in our society. It's okay, I'm depressed. Life is horrible, blah, blah, blah. So I have to teach myself. No one can teach it for you. There's no one in the world that can teach you how to pick yourself back up. I've only ever talked to people on this show that you have to go through in an adverse situation and be downright beaten up and realize no one's coming, to have a sense of picking yourself back up, getting back out there and doing it on your own. So when your brain's calling for help the next time, hey, You have this shoulder injury. I'm calling for help. You don't just deal with it. I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to make myself better. That's it. I'm going to put myself in the right situation. I don't want to feel depressed. It's not okay to be upset. It's not okay just to always be happy. It's okay to always keep striving to be a better version of yourself. And I can only truly be happy in a sense where I am on the path to being healthy and vitality, however you want to push it. That's the only opportune moment I have to be happy. And that's kind of where we have to sit. And then all stems back to my point of being the coddleness we get from being kids in our days, when someone takes care of everything for us. That's my rant.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's so much good stuff you just said there. And I think, like, when you think about a humans, especially human species as children, and this is important to understand, is we are the most dependent, and we are dependent for the longest time than any other species when we're born. Meaning when we are babies, when we are infants, we are completely dependent on the environment. We cannot survive without people taking care of us. It's not possible. And not only are we completely dependent when we're born, but the dependency lasts the longest period of time that other species. Like, out here in Florida, you got the sea turtles that come and lay their eggs. Like, what does mom do after she lays the eggs? Peace, I'm out. Good luck, guys. Hope you get to the ocean, right? You're on your own, right? And so that's the other extreme. But they're also born with the capacity to have the instinct to go to the water. They have the capacity to move. We are not. That's not how we're born. So with parenting, and I have 2 children, so I'm not talking about what you should do as a parent, not as a parent, just for the record. And to me, and I've done podcasts on this, it's like, it's not about protecting your kids, it's about empowering them. And it's about understanding that dependency, they need it. Like, it is biologically wired. It's called the attachment drive, where you literally need your environment to accept you as a child. And you will do everything in your power to get the environment to accept you. You'll become and you'll do anything, right? And so, but there's a period of time where there has to be an evolution of dependency to interdependency and independence, right? I don't really think any of us ever get to the space of independence. I don't think it's healthy to be independent. We are a species that thrives on community and connection. So I think what we do, though, is we overcorrect. We go from, I'm not going to be dependent anymore, I'm going to be independent, right? Which is fine. It empowers you in the moment. But what I have found for people that make the overcorrection, it's very lonely, because you haven't learned how to work with other people and with the environment interdependently, right? And so, but parents aren't taught this, man, and how is love measured for so many parents? By worrying about their kids. So the more I worry about the kid, the more I love them. And so you have parents worrying all over their children, and the children are like, please stop bothering me. And and then the parent will be like, well, but I do it because I love you. I just love you. And I'm like, well, please stop loving me then, because I can't take it anymore, right? It's like, it's an overcorrection, right? And so all the points you made, I think, are so important, Anthony, but I just wanted to explain why the physiology is set up that way. And the key is to get people to learn, empower them to be interdependent. And like, I have a teenager right now, and it's like letting him make choices and letting him fall and say, hey, man, if you need help, let me know. I'm here, but you got this. Because the other point you made that I think is important to drive home is, when you keep rescuing people, 2 things happen. One, you've eradicated the opportunity for them to learn something. And 2, you're basically teaching them that they're not capable of managing it themselves because you keep doing it. And so now you create this dependency on the person, right? On the parent, which, again, we can go into the psychology of that, of a parent wanting to feel needed. And I want to be needed, and I want my kid to need me. It's like, oh God, that's so damaging to the child. It's like, you got to let them out of the nest, man. And yeah, they're going to fall down. And yeah, they're going to bang their knee. And yeah, all that's going to happen. But that's where the learning comes, to your point before, Anthony.
It's important. And just kind of add to your independent being too independent. It's learning. And this is where I kind of actually slightly disagree. You can be super independent when you learn to be dependent on others. There's an independency to learning to be dependent. And what I mean by that is I can be an independent individual. I can say that, I can do this, but I know where my resources are with my dependencies to other people. And that's independence in of itself is, hey, I know where to look when I need help. Like I'm running a business right now, right? I'm independent in the sense that I'm doing it all myself, but I know I suck at writing up operation manuals. It's not happening. So I know as an independent person that I can run my own business, but I have a dependency and I know where to look for. I know where to find those people that can help me with this problem because that's not in my wheelhouse and I cannot spend my resources elsewhere. So it's like, that's where I kind of slightly just wanted to.
Well, no, I agree with everything you just said. I would just call what you said interdependent.
Not fair enough.
Like it's the synergy of both of the worlds of independent and dependency. That's interdependency, and it's not my term, by the way. It's Stephen Covey. If you read 7 Habits, that's where I got it from. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He talks about interdependency as the sweet spot. And when I read that a long time ago, I'm like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. And so I agree with everything you just said, my man. I would just call what you just said as interdependent.
I think that's the problem. I read that book about a quarter of the way through.
It's one of those ones you could. It's one of those books you could read 10 times and get something out of every time.
That's so funny because that's the one book I was like, I can't finish this book. That's funny. But yeah, that's. I just want to bring up one last point before we get to our final 2 questions, and it's something you mentioned a while back in this episode. And that was that model where it's all about money. And you're right. And I just want to be very clear. There's an essence to the Hippocratic Oath. And my family's all doctors too. So
okay. We really do have some.
Yeah, we have the right to talk about this. My brother's a physician. My grandma won crazy amount of awards, being the first ever DO doctor and started
cool, man.
legacy. So I
awesome.
hear this shit every day.
Yeah.
But they are out to get there and go and help people. But the amount of hospitals, and I'm talking about maybe not the physicians, but the hospitals are business. Hospitals aren't run by doctors. They're run by business administrators, people who have never taken the Hippocratic Oath, they're not involved with medicine, and are trying to run the hospital like a business. So what does a business want to do? A business needs to make money in order to survive. So they're constantly getting you to that like 80% realm. They're not going to get you 100. They're going to get you 80%. So you can
bad business.
It's great business for them because
bad business to go beyond 80% is what I'm saying.
Yes. Yeah. So it creates that reoccurring model of getting people back, and it's come to us when you're sick instead of that preventative medicine. Like I've always wondered, and I mean, we pretty much got this clarified a couple of years ago when we were actually petitioning for this, is why isn't gyms covered by any health insurance or personal training? And people will use the argument, my insurance reimburses me $50 every 6 months but yeah, they only go by check-ins. And now they have no idea what you're doing in the gym. I've literally worked at a big box gym before, and people would come in, check in, and leave. So like that counts as a check-in for them being there for their insurance companies, but it's not, and they know that. They know people are just gonna they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how they're working with it. That's why personal training is not covered. That's why working with somebody who could really help take you to the next level isn't covered. I mean, let's talk about physical therapists for a second. I love physical therapists. Don't get me wrong, and people always take this the wrong way. But physical therapists are controlled by insurance companies. Insurance companies want to spend as little money as possible because the more money they have to spend, the less money they make. So when you're seeing a physical therapist and you're getting it covered by insurance, and the insurance company doctor who's never met you before is going to say, Anthony can only get 2 sessions a week for 6 weeks, and then you can only work on his left knee because that's the injured area, and you can only do 10 sets of knee flexion and extension, and then that's it. And then once he's able to put weight on it again, he's done. And meanwhile, I'm a cleavage athlete, which I'm not, but just in case I hypothetically I am. And I really need to, my 100% is being able to run marathons. They're not getting me back there because the insurance company told them not to because it costs too much money. And they want me coming back again to get hurt again. So I have to go through the whole process again. So it's just like they don't take care of the 100%, but it's the insurance company that's kind of controlling that model to keep you sick. It's a keep sick model. Yeah, that's
the health model, Anthony. That's the
health model. And it's what I see in my industry time and time again. I have so many clients that come to me that go to physical therapy and come to me, and I'll tell you 10 out of 10 times they stop going to physical therapy because even though it's free, because insurance pays for it, they're not getting anything out of it. Because I don't take that approach. I don't say your knee hurts. Let's just focus on the knee. Like you said, it's that 10,000-foot view. It's I watch people when I train. If we're doing knee extension, which is focusing on the leg, for those that don't know, it's like I'm not just watching the quad engage in a knee extension. I'm watching your whole body. You might be tilted a little to the left like this, and then you're putting too much pressure onto your hip flexors because you're leaning too far forward. So now that's going to cause an issue in your hip flexors not being able to expand, contract properly. So it's how's your whole body moving? Maybe you're like tilting out this way and you're overcompensating somewhere else. It's the whole down approach. And that's really what we take with people because everything works in congruence with each other. It's do everything as one so your body functions.
Amen.
Amen. You just like saying that because it's my name.
Well, it kind of works, doesn't it?
It's kind of works. But that's kind of where I want to leave it, Matt. And I want to ask you the final two questions I ask everybody.
Great.
So first question, man, is if you were to summarize this episode in 1 or 2 sentences, what would be your take-home message?
Don't settle. Don't settle for what's presented to you as your options and start to educate yourself, start to ask questions. If something doesn't make sense to you, intuitively doesn't make sense, and don't just accept it because the person has more letters after their name than you do. Like, don't settle. Understand why. It's your body. You only get one. Like, I wouldn't settle for anything. That would be my number one message to people.
And then we didn't plan this on purpose, but this kind of correlates to the second question, which is how people can find you, get a hold of you. But you did tell me pre-show that your book actually came out yesterday. So
yes,
on the day this comes out, this is not planned. So we recorded this like 2 months before. So Matt, just tell us a little bit about what your book's about and how people can find it and get a hold of you.
Yeah, so the book is called Health to Vitality, and it basically is a synopsis of everything that I shared very quickly here with Anthony. And I give you the new principles, the new tools, the new strategies to really go for vitality and not be enslaved to the health model. It sells on Amazon, and this week literally is the week where you can get the Kindle version for 99 cents. So it's a special offer at the beginning, 99 cents to get the book. You can obviously get the hard copy or the paperback if you want. But on Amazon, you can also go to healthtovitality.com or MatthewLaBosco.com, where I also have courses and different resources to help people implement all the things that I'm sharing.
Yeah, and I appreciate you coming on today. And thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Health and Fitness Redefined. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button and join us next week as we dive deeper into this ever-changing field. And remember, fitness is medicine. Until next time.